Hello, my name is John McFarland. I'm an adult librarian for Nashville Public Library. I've missed out this summer on getting to see one of my favorite pastimes, baseball. I totally miss going to the games and seeing everything in person, and I know you do too. But I wanted to share with you all one of my favorite hobbies and something that I think you'll find super valuable over the next couple weeks in how to learn the game and see the game from a different perspective. I'm sure you've seen people in the stands with something like this, taking the time and marking what looks like hieroglyphics to some people. But over 5 weeks, I want to take the time and demystify it to where this makes a whole lot more sense. Let's get started. So if we're going to keep score, one of the most important things we're going to need right at the beginning is a way to connect each position of the 9 players that are on one side and the 9 players that are on another together. So that way we have one cohesive way to keep track of who is where. It's the classic who's on first question. So we changed it to numbers. This is the traditional notation for scorekeeping. This is also a way to explain what happens in a play. So let's go down the positions. Number 1 in the middle right there underneath those 3, by the way, this is totally not to scale, these 3 diamonds right here that are going to be our bases. 1 is going to be the pitcher. 2 behind home plate is the catcher. 3 over here on the right is first base. So whenever they make a hit, they attempt to get to first base. That's 3. 4 is going to be second base on the top diamond. And then over on the left side is going to be 5, the third base. So you're wondering where the 6 is. So on the field, there is one person who stands a little bit further back, but is still on that what's called the infield. That is a shortstop. That's number 6. And there's 3 people in the way back catching those deep fly balls. So it goes on left fielder, LF, 7, 8, center fielder, CF, and 9, right fielder, RF. So we're going to use those designations importantly here in a couple seconds. But as an example, say you're up to bat, you're watching this, and somebody hits the ball to 6, the shortstop, and then throws it to number 3 to get them out. So shortstop to first base. Instead of writing SS-1B, all we put in is 6-3. So it's an easy way to have that notation. If somebody hits a deep fly ball to right field, we would just put 9. So that way we know 9 is the person who got the out, the right fielder is the one who did it, and we can keep track of it that way. So it's a great way to have shorthand when we don't have a lot of space to work with. Now, let's take a look and start from the beginning with the starting lineups. So if you've never seen a scorecard before, this is it. This is our starting point. There's room for 12 innings of play, which I personally have hit before. That's where it gets really fun. Stats on the end for each player. On the left side, player names. On the bottom left, enough room for the pitchers. And on the bottom right, some game day details so you can keep track of the day and your experience and what happened. On the bottom side, we do have basically the exact same thing. On the left side, notations for players, enough for 12 innings, and the stats. Also in the bottom right, you can put down the umpires' names, which is typically used, and a box score at the bottom, and notes just in case there's something you need to reference or special circumstances. So we're going to start here with some game day details. I always do this when I get right to the ballpark, so I'll start with the date here, and then I will put the home team's name. So I use Charlotte as an example. I made all these up on the spot. Our visiting team, of course, is going to be Nashville, and we're rooting for the visitors right there. We always put the start time of the game so you can calculate the duration of the game at the end. Usually before the start of the game, they'll give a game time temperature as well. and you sometimes put the ballpark of where it's being played. So I just made up one here, and we just had Charlotte Field. Attendance 0, no fans in the stands for this one. And I always like the spot in the middle where I'm watching from. Let's say we're watching this on TV, so couch 1, row and seat. And now we will start outlining the players from the top as we get the starting lineup going. So let's start filling in some names. We will have this one be Clark, Dolby, let's see, what's another good name? Fun, Bass. These will be some interesting names. So we'll just go on down the line. You can use either last names, last name, comma, first initial, however you want to mark it is entirely up to you. Next, we need to make sure that the positions are going to be on there. That's going to be next. So from the top, third base, this one will be our designated hitter. Let me explain that one real quick if you've never heard that term before. A designated hitter is taking the place of the pitcher in the batting order. So the pitcher will not go at bat in certain leagues. So we'll have the designated hitter in here. They won't be represented by a number, they won't be on field, but we will go down the line there, and that should get us to a certain starting point. And we also want to put the starting pitcher name, so we'll have that be O'Reilly. That'll be a good name for there. And then label at the top which side it is for memory. This will be the top side. Let's flip it. Now this will be the home side, so this is going to be our Charlotte side. Let's start getting some player names down here. Let's see, there's a good name right there. Meller, I like that name. Let's just start using that and go on down like we did before. So just make sure to keep track of the order. It'll usually be either posted somewhere towards the entrance that you can actually see it before the game, or it will be announced pre the game. If you're watching it on TV, if you're watching it on live TV and have the ability to pause, sometimes it's good to pause it, see what the order is, because they'll always do it at the top or the bottom of the first inning as a nice little starting point. Let's keep adding names on here. And that's the first little setup. We'll start doing positions now. That will, there we go. Let's have that be the designated hitter of that. So both sides are going to have a designated hitter here. And we are almost completely filled out. Before a game, sometimes it can be a rush, so if you're running a little behind, you could basically fill it in as the game starts. And remember to put the starting pitcher down, because you will see the starting pitcher first in the top of the first inning. Make sure you also start the box score. Since Nashville's the visiting team, we're going to put them on the top, and Charlotte will be on the bottom. We'll have them just Char. You can abbreviate them however you like. The umpire names and any sort of special notes. With the way this season's been playing, they've had a special rules. So if it ever shows up, you make sure to put the notes on there. In the 8th and 9th innings, we'll get to that in a couple weeks, runners will start on second base. So we just got to make sure that we add that in, because that will be crucial as we get into the start of this process. Let's finish writing out that notes. Here we are. And now we are fully set up with the starting line. So one last thing before we finish up today, I did want to make note of the notes section. That notes section can be used for whatever you want, for rain delays, for any sort of changes. If you had to leave early, I've got that noted in some of my sheets, and I say, well, I finished it up later, watching on TV or catching it online in some way. Last question that you're probably thinking about next time you go to a game, where do I get one of these? I bought mine offline, so it's a big notebook that I personally like, but you can usually find one online to print off before you go. But more often than not, the fan relations section of just about any ballpark you go to is actually going to have probably one of these to give you at the game. so you can always just ask at the ballpark. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope it was a good starting point. Next week, we'll start getting into the little pieces and build it together. We'll go through the first inning. We'll do this next Tuesday at noon. Have a good day.